So, y'all ready for this?
You have to give Nissan credit. Despite how powerful and relentless the GTR may be, the company always seems to find a way to hone it further, to find more power, sharper handling, or better overall performance. The latest example of their efforts? The Nismo. And it's the most aggressive GTR we've seen yet.
Under the hood of the Nismo GTR, it's nothing really groundbreaking, at least versus the original groundbreakingness of the GTR when it first appeared. Only now we have 600 horsepower and 481 pound-feet of torque. Now the real secret there is that Nissan has effectively shifted the power band further to the high revs with these new turbochargers and a new ignition system that helps them, figure out the combustion right. Key points about the GTR is that it's a midship or a premium midship platform. That's what Nissan calls it. They even write it right there. And that means the engine's roughly behind the front axle center line. That's going to help out with weight distribution because they've mounted the transmission further in the back. That's something we'll look at later. Each 3.8 liter twin turbo V6 is hand assembled by a special Nissan technician, and they get their name proudly displayed on the very front of the engine, just like you'd expect from AMG. If you want to see where your money goes in the GTR Nismo, all you have to do is put it in the air. Because, man, are there a lot of beautiful carbon fibery bits and vents and all kinds of wonderful things happening up here. These fins here are interesting, and you might recognize it if you've ever put together a PC and put a heat sink on, because these basically work the same way. They're there to get heat off the exhaust. And there's another pair that we can see up at the front here. Now, there are vents everywhere. They're feeding the brakes, they're feeding all kinds of coolers everywhere. Talking about brakes, we can get to the wheels and tires. Tires are a special Dunlop with a hilariously long name. It's like SP Sportmax DSST 6000 or something. Wheels in the back, 10.5 inches wide, 20 inches in diameter. At the front, they're 10 inches wide, 20 inches diameter as well. That's a lot of front tire up there. That's gonna help this thing turn in as aggressively as it does. Now, interesting choice. This titanium exhaust is the first thing you see, and it's an option and a pricey one at that. What I like is that they haven't bragged about it with the tailpipes. The only way you know it's titanium is by getting it in the air and looking at it.
Zero to 60 in 2.9 seconds, and the quarter mile in 11.1 seconds at 125.3 miles an hour. Braking performance was similar too, with the Nismo taking 97 feet to stop from 60. But on the figure 8, and for the very first time, the GTR broke into the 22-second range, which is a territory occupied by the world's best handling, most powerful cars. A 22.9 second lap is the fastest we've ever recorded from a GTR, and its 1.06 lateral G average is the highest we've ever seen.
I'll start out and say that the GTR Nismo is my new favorite GTR. This thing is absolutely insane. It's maniacal, it's frenetic, it is so much fun. Now, you may not believe that because when you look at the changes, they don't seem huge, they don't seem substantial, but this GTR doesn't drive like most GTRs. There's the power, of course. This thing is making 600 horsepower, so Nissan says, And we're getting that amount even though we're in California because we're using octane booster. Because when you have the option of 600 horsepower, you want to use that. So the power in the high RPM, the high revs is amazing. But to me, it's not just the power, it's the changes in the chassis. What I love most about this car is the steering in the front end. It feels so tight, way sharper, and way more reactive and precise than what I remember from normal GTRs. And considering how capable those normal GTRs are or were, you can imagine how much better this thing is. The drivetrain is just amazing. When you apply power, the car steers. So you can steer with the steering, and you have a lot of grip in the front end, so you can get around some turns at amazing rates of speed. But just when you're ready to feed back that power in, it turns even more. So you start developing this driving tendency where you're accelerating maybe at the apex of a corner, maybe slightly before, depending on the turn, and the car just carries you right through at speeds that you never thought were capable through that specific corner. It's amazing. Yeah, this is like, GTRs have always been kind of like, hey, yeah, they're really cool, but they just go about everything wrong because they sit so high and the power's got to go from the front to the rear and back to the front again, and they're heavy and they've got, you know, all this and that. But like, this car makes me a believer. This is like, all right, okay, I'm aboard the GTR train.
The GTR Nismo is a super low production car, way more money than a regular GTR, destroying competitors on the track. That's what the Nissan GTR Nismo is good at. Just more power, less understeer than some GTRs. I find that as we test GTRs, year by year, one understeers more, then the next one understeers less. This version is right in between. But the all-wheel drive and this quick shifting transmission translate that power into acceleration so well that for the driver, you don't have a real sense of the speed. Not until you look at the lap time and see that it's the fastest car that Motor Trend has ever tested in the streets of Willow.
Beyond the 600 horsepower, the Nismo's upgrades may not seem substantial on paper. Take a look underneath though, take a turn behind the wheel, and you immediately find the effects of Nissan's continued improvements. GTRs have always been a thrill, but this one takes the experience further. It's satisfying and it's exhilarating to drive, and the fact that we can't find a street car that's faster around streets of Willow speaks to the GTR's utter capabilities. Make no mistake, this is the best driving GTR yet.